Morning, everybody. Welcome to the Personnel Board meeting for June 18th, 2019. I'd like to start the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Has everybody had an opportunity to read the minutes from our last meeting? If so, do I have a motion?
Make a motion, we accept the minutes as written.
Have a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Reorganization. This is the time of year we have an opportunity to reorganize. Does the board want to keep the organization as it is, or would they like to make other arrangements? What is your pleasure?
Lorna, you stepped back from your duties, and if you
No,
would like
I'm very
to-
happy. Wouldn't mind being vice chairman if you don't want to do that any longer, but I'm pleased with the direction that Peter takes us in.
I'm very happy with that too, and you know, we could go back and forth. So if
Yep.
you'd like to take that back, and then maybe in the future year I can do it.
Exactly.
Okay, if somebody would make a
I
motion.
make a motion that we change the vice chairman.
To
Any other-
Lorna.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Do I have a motion?
Actually, I could second that. I don't think we seconded.
Do I have a motion for the chair?
I make a motion that Peter Fox remain chair of the Personnel Board.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And I will accept. I'd like to move out of order and give Jennifer a chance to discuss the Board of Health clerk. That's before us under new business, item number 3. Jen,
Good morning. Thank you so much.
morning.
Morning.
Welcome.
Thank you. So back prior to our town meeting, I had met with Greg about increasing the hours of our Board of Health clerk. Currently, the Board of Health office is open 18 hours a week. 10 years ago, it was open 35 hours a week, so we were trying to implement getting it back up to remotely close. So I had spoken with Greg. We did up the budget with increasing the Board of Health office to 24 hours a week, so that the office would be open 4 days a week to the public instead of just the 3 days that it is now. So when I spoke with Greg, he said just put it through on the budget with the 24-hour increase. It'll go through town meeting. It went through town meeting. The budget was approved, but I didn't know what I needed to do, so I spoke with Mr. Ruda and then was told that I needed to come here just to bring it up to you as to what had been going on.
Okay, so this has been approved at town meeting.
Yes.
Was approved by the past administrator.
Yes.
Jonathan, this has been discussed with you,
Yes. Yep.
okay? So this is basically a formality, but for the record, we are increasing from what hours?
You are increasing from 18 hours to 24 hours.
24.
Yes.
No increase in pay.
Well, it says in benefits.
Just the, I believe it was increased 2%.
The cost of
Cost of
living?
living
Cost of
increase.
living,
COLA,
right.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yes.
But is the
And-
benefits
But
a
nothing
change?
additional at this time, no.
This gentleman is now eligible for benefits.
Yes.
Okay, any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, were the benefits figured with the, when the town meeting vote
No,
passed?
that's what I'm asking.
I don't know that.
Do you know if it was figured in?
I do not know. All I know is that it was spoken, I can only tell you what I had spoken with Greg about, that it was going to become a benefit eligible position. I apologize. This was my first time doing anything like this, so I did go to Greg trying to find out what I needed to do to try to implement the position back up.
So,
Lorna?
Peter, the question is going to you. So Peter, when we move somebody to the position of going from 24 to 30, hours per week
20.
by our personnel handbook, does that person then qualify for benefits?
Yes.
It's 20 hours.
Then I don't think you can do one without the other. You can't increase somebody's time to 30 hours if the handbook says that they then get benefits. But the question would remain whether that was budgeted.
I would imagine if
would
you
think
had the
John- yeah.
discussion with Greg that it
Greg.
was now becoming a benefited position, that would have been taken into consideration.
I would think, but I apologize.
Yeah.
This is all new to me, so.
I'd like-
Excuse me, Pete.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
You would need to speak to Rich to see if there's money in that account.
I would agree with that, Mr. Chairman. That's
Okay, I would recommend that because the
Certainly.
reason I asked the question is because, yes, the hours went above 20. That position or any position now is qualified
Right.
for benefits. But I would like to make sure that if the budget was approved, it was approved to make sure that there was monies in the budget to cover benefits.
Right, right.
Okay.
So point of information from you also. You just said that the personnel board book now states that anybody over 20 hours qualifies for benefits. Is that what you said?
Yes.
So wouldn't that stand to reason that if this was put into the budget, it would have been put in with benefits? Because if that's what the handbook states, to me, that would have had to apply automatically to that position.
Okay, but I would not recommend that we assume that.
No, I don't recommend that either.
And
but-
that we should double-check with the treasurer and the
Absolutely.
accountant to make sure that monies are in the budget to cover benefits.
Only, Mr. Chairman, because an increase in hours could look like a small amount of money, and if that's what your instructions were to put it into your budget, that doesn't necessarily mean that the treasurer put aside the extra $20,000 that it would cost to have benefits awarded to that position.
I do know that the accountant was aware of it, that we were increasing the hours, that was the
Right.
discussion. I just don't know how far else it trickled down.
Right.
But
It's worth asking the question, because
absolutely.
you'd hate to be in a position where we said go for it, and now we don't have the money for the benefits.
I agree with the administrator that we should double-check first. So what I would like to do is table this until we find out that answer,
Okay.
and then we'll take a vote on it at our next meeting.
I do wish that when I approached Greg several months ago, that he had mentioned to me that this was the process. I asked if I had to go to the personnel board, and he informed me that no, all I had to do was put it in my budget. Because I had several meetings with him, because I gladly would have come in front of you. As you know, I've come before you other times.
Yep.
I just wish, because now I have someone who is hoping to work these extra hours, and now may be told that it's not. But I completely understand. I just wish, and I'm hoping going forward, that the communication is more detailed as to step A, step B, step C, step D, what needs to be done, so that it's not a...
What normally happens, if anybody is changing hours or changing positions or getting increases, all that has to go through the personnel board.
And that's what I
And always
thought.
has.
But I went to the previous administrator, and he said, no, we just need to put it through on the budget. It's not a problem, because the position used to be 35 hours a week, and we're gonna try to restore it partially back to what it was. It didn't need to go through everything. And I said, okay, are you sure? There's nothing else that I need to do? Because I wouldn't have just put it through on my budget without direction.
Well, there's a very large difference between the dollar amount from increasing hours from 18 to 24. But there is a huge difference in benefits.
Right.
Benefits normally for most people and most corporations is about 50%.
Right.
Mr. Chairman, it could very well be that if it's that Rich still has the benefits available.
Oh,
I'll definitely look into
I think it makes sense
it.
that we just have to make sure.
Could we make a motion
Yes.
to approve this subject to verifying? And that way, if we verify
Then we don't
an
have to wait
hour
a
from now, we don't have to make this person wait a month.
I would agree with that.
I have no problem with that.
I would make that, if you want to make that
I'll
motion, I
make a
would.
motion that we approve the increase in hours for the Board of Health clerk from from 18 to 24 hours, subject to the confirmation that the benefits have been taken into consideration with the budget.
I'll second that motion.
I have a suggestion. Jen, could you speak to Rich and before the end of the meeting, get back to us?
Absolutely, I will gladly go speak with him, not a problem.
Okay, we have a motion and we have a second. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
I
Okay,
will-
Jen,
I
now
will-
if you would run downstairs.
Absolutely, thank you, and I apologize, most definitely.
that's fine.
When
That-
speaking with
that's-
Mr. Reuter, I
Yep, that's fine.
want to know the direction to go.
See, the thing we have to be very careful of is that we don't vote to approve something and there's not the proper funds.
Exactly.
Okay.
No, I
So
appreciate
if you
that.
would be kind enough to go down and see Rich and get back to us,
I will, thank you.
thank you. Okay, what I would like to do is formally introduce Jonathan Reuter as the Director of Personnel. Jonathan, do you know everybody on the
I do.
board?
I've met everybody, except you, ma'am.
You don't know me?
Refresh me?
You're my neighbor up the road. I'm Rose Smolka.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Yes. Rose has been on the board for how many years now?
1892.
Thank you.
Boy, you better move your chair.
Yes.
Yeah. Most of the people on this board have been on for quite a while. Joan, been on it many, many, many years, was the clerk,
2002, I think they were
2002.
on the board.
Yes. So the board has lots of experience, which is a big help. Okay. Citizens' comments, there are none. Under old business, item number 1, wage study. Everybody knows the wage study has been completed, been submitted. Jonathan has a copy which he is reviewing. He is submitting the wage study to the Board of Selectmen, who are probably in the process of reviewing it. Jonathan, you want to comment on that?
Mr. Chairman, I did submit the study last night to the Board of Selectmen. They took no action on it. They want to have a chance to review it, like you mentioned. I would anticipate that they're going to want further information before they vote to accept that particular study.
Okay.
That was the feeling that I walked away with.
Yep. I understand that. They just got their copy. Each of them will have an opportunity to review it, and they'll probably want to discuss some of it in detail. Maybe make some suggestions, I don't know. They will probably want some of us from the Personnel Board to be available to answer any questions if needed. So obviously, I want to commend Jonathan for moving forward with the wage study, because I think we will all agree that it's extremely important. Employees think it's extremely important, but we need to allow the process to follow the proper procedure, and the Board of Selectmen do have a say in this. So we'll wait to hear from them, probably get some kind of feedback at the next meeting, or at least the meeting after that. Item number 2, update wage chart based on town meeting results. Carol, you want to comment on that?
As soon as I get the figures from Debbie, I'll update the wage chart and also update the employee database to reflect the new salary ranges.
Okay, that
Salary,
is extremely important, because if we don't update the wage chart and we don't update the wage study, then we always fall a year behind. Now that we have the wage study, we should update that continuously, and we should update it so it's in the employee database. So, good. Now when do you anticipate?
I think she may have those figures, so I'm hoping that Thursday I can start working on that.
Okay.
So, Carol, how lengthy is the wage chart, the updated wage chart? I mean, is it several pages? Is it more than that?
No, it's just one page.
So could we, when you're done with that, could we please have a copy of that maybe
Sure.
for the next meeting, so that we can look at it also and see what that looks like? Thank you.
Everybody has a copy of the wage chart? Do you have a copy?
I wasn't here for the last meeting, so if it was part of the information packet, I didn't have it.
Okay, we will make sure you get one.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Item number 2, employee physicals have been completed. Everybody has been approved. The police chief, administrative assistant, and the youth services librarian. So they've had their physicals, and they are both on board and working. Item number 5, new business, employee orientation. Joan, a little update on that?
Yes, excuse me, I gave an orientation to Lauren Milosh, the police chief administrative assistant, and Jonathan sat in with us. And I am going to give an orientation to Lita Carroll, the youth services librarian, at 10 o'clock this morning.
And you have a suggestion about,
Yes, I believe that every member of the personnel board should give someone an orientation, and that way you get much more involved with the handbook. And it is really involved now.
Would you like to make the motion of that?
I think that's an excellent idea because it keeps us familiar and updated on the employee handbook, any changes that might be in there. So if each of us at one time will take, when there's a new employee, would take a turn and sit in and do the orientation. Jonathan sat in on one of them and got a feel and experience for the employee handbook. The employee handbook is now 54 pages when it used to be
26.
26, so it is much more detailed than it used to be.
Do you want a motion? Yeah.
I don't think we need a motion for that. That can be done on a voluntary basis.
We would be doing the orientation or sitting in on an
Giving the orientation.
So would there be some training involved with this?
Just if
To
anybody wants
go
to sit in
and
this
give
morning,
somebody
they're
an
welcome.
orientation of something that,
Sit and just see what it looks like. I'll do that with you.
You sat in on one already.
Already.
Yeah, I've sat
Good to update.
in the past, but not recently, so, I mean, I certainly don't mind doing it, and you don't do every single word in it. You might do paragraphs and sections. The new employee has an obligation to read the book and also has an obligation to sign it, that he or she has received it and has accepted the guidelines that are in that book.
Jonathan,
Is there any chance you could offer a workshop where we all could come and you could show us what we have to learn before we try it?
all you really do is summarize what is in there.
or maybe those of us who have never done it before could sit in with either Peter or Lorna.
Whatever we need to get it done, we'll get it done. And if we need extra help to make sure we do it correctly, we'll do it correctly.
Joan, we give people the employee handbook before you have the orientation, so they have a chance to read it and ask questions. Then maybe I would suggest, the only suggestion I would make is that prior to your meeting with them, if they have the handbook to look at, it would be beneficial if they had questions to then bring up if they have read it.
In some cases, we've done that, in some cases, we have not done that. I'm in favor of giving them the book and giving them an opportunity to review it, read it, and digest it. That would be helpful during the orientation, but it is not a mechanism to not do the orientation. So,
Exactly.
yes, Rose?
You
Sometimes
had two. Did you do them together?
No.
No,
You do them separately?
I'm
And how
doing-
long does an orientation last?
now, it lasted close to an hour.
Yeah, if you have more questions, it's going to take longer.
Well, I would think that somebody may have questions after you have given an orientation, once they've had the opportunity then to read actually the language. They may have questions after that, and I know you always make yourself available should they have any other questions. I just think sometimes, I'm the type of person who processes information by having it ahead of time, reading it, and then being able to have somebody explain it to me, and if I have questions, to go and to ask the questions. I think it may just be beneficial for that type of person who learns that way.
Well, we usually do it the day they start or the day after they start,
Okay,
so they don't get the handbook until they're actually
okay, all right, that makes,
appointed.
yeah, all right.
Okay. Let's go back to new business item number 3. Jen, Lisa?
Hi. So I went downstairs and Rich was not there, but Lisa graciously got in touch with him via phone, so she's come up to relay what he has said.
So legally, according to HIPAA, that can't be a deciding factor for someone to be employed, because we can't say whether or not they can become on health insurance. That's HIPAA. So.
Say that again, please.
So we can't disclose who's on our health insurance. We can't say whether or not I myself am on it, or whether or not, or whether I'm on a family plan or a single plan. So saying whether or not somebody can become a full-time employee and benefit eligible, it's not a deciding factor.
I agree with that. However,
Not the question.
The question that we need to have answered is, this person is now eligible for health insurance.
Okay.
If this person is going to receive health insurance through the town, we need to know if there is money in the budget to cover that expense.
So the answer would have to be, we'll just have to find money in the budget, because we can't say whether or not they're on it. Because by saying, yes, there's money, we're saying that that person is on health insurance.
Not necessarily.
We're finding
Is the money available should they choose to
Correct.
use the benefits?
Well,
That's the question.
that's all that Rich told me I was allowed to say. We
Okay,
can't.
so you might have an employee that gets health benefits from outside, from either, from their spouse. They might go under their plan. But if somebody chooses to have health insurance through the town of Dudley, there has to be funds.
Right, we try to budget so that there are things like that that happen if somebody were to come on the plan that wasn't on the plan. So with that in mind, we always like to make sure that we have a little bit more budgeted in there for circumstances like that.
Okay, but we don't specifically know in this
Don't
case
specifically know,
whether there's money in the budget or not.
no.
Jonathan, any feedback?
I don't know what the big deal is. Every time we go to a town meeting, there's always something on the agenda that we need additional funds because we're running short, for example, on salt in the highway department, or we have other bills to pay that exceeded our expectations, and we have to fund that. This is a thing that a person is entitled to. So I don't, and I would think when they're making the budget, when you make your payroll, you're including not only the salary, but also the benefits, which include holidays, vacation pay, and health insurance.
Right. Usually it's each department that comes up with that, though, that budgets that in.
Was there, when the budget was submitted, was there money in the submitted budget to cover that expense?
From the Board of Health?
Yes.
No, but I can tell you the building department, we don't submit money in for our insurance on our budget. That's not part of our budgeted budget. The only thing on the budgets for the building department and the Board of Health are salary and expenses, such as office supplies, travel, training, things like that. On either budget, neither have health insurance submitted on them.
Mr. Chairman, I would suggest allow me to deconflict this today. Reading between the lines, I think we have the money in there to cover that position with benefits. But let me deconflict it today, and I'll let you know.
Okay.
I think it's a good exercise, though, in the future going forward, that we consider that it's not just a simple increase in hours, like, you know, it's not a $100 line item, it's a substantially larger line item when it becomes.
So, Mr. Ruda,
benefits
on the
eligible.
budget, there's a line item on the budget for health insurance, correct? Or employees' benefits?
I believe that's how it's set up.
I mean, not for each
General
individual
insurance.
department, but when we go to a town meeting, there is a line item on the budget for employee benefits or health insurance that is part of the overall budget that is voted upon?
Correct.
Yes.
Part of the treasurer's budget, I
But
believe.
it covers the existing. It
Okay.
doesn't,
You-
if we haven't budgeted for, if there's no set aside for situations like this, then it's not necessarily budgeted. I believe there is a set aside, but I will have to confirm that.
Okay, so we've made a motion, and we've approved a motion pending that there is money available for benefits. Mr. Ruda will look into it sometime today, and he can let me know or whatever. And being Personnel Director, because we've already voted on it, then that vote would carry, providing that there's money in it, and we don't need another vote.
No,
Okay, all right. So we need to give Mr. Ruder an opportunity to just
Absolutely.
dot the i's and cross the t's to make sure that everything is covered.
Okay,
Okay?
thank you very much. And
All right.
you'll keep me informed.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 2, under new business, employee handbook printing costs. Carol, you want to discuss this a little bit, please?
Sure. I just asked for a second quote because after I've updated the database, we have over 200 employees and volunteers. Anyone who is on, say, the Historical Commission or Cultural or Capital Improvement should have an employee handbook. So there's a little over 200 people. So I asked for a quote originally for 100. I sent him a second request asking for a quote for 200 and 250 quantities. He sent me an email this morning, said the quote is attached, but there was no attachment. So I asked him again to send the attachment. I'm assuming that it will just be maybe double the cost of 100, but maybe a little bit less. It would cost us over $500 if we were to print it ourselves, taking into consideration toner costs and wear and tear on the printer itself. So the cost here for 100 is $315.20, and that's just with a staple at the top, what we currently have right now.
Okay.
I don't believe volunteers are employees.
But they may
On the
have
boards.
employees working for them in the situation of a clerk working for a board. I would think that they would have to be aware of what's in the employee handbook.
Okay, it's my understanding that if you serve on a board, whether it be the personnel board or any kind of board in town, you are considered a employee, but with no salary and no benefits. But I'll double check on that.
And I would also think that, I think Carol's right. I think if you're a member of a board, then you need to know the working conditions that, for the people that are under you, to make sure that you don't violate anything as a board, and that you know when there's a violation that occurs. So I do think that it's important that people who serve on a board know what the working agreement is and what that personnel handbook contains.
Mr. Chairman, was the idea to print it and distribute it to all employees? Was that the?
Yes. No, we don't have that money in our budget.
I don't believe so,
I
but I
don't
can
think
check.
so. Our budget's
I'm not sure.
lean and mean.
Never had anything that high.
We don't have much at all.
Okay, we'll look,
Have we considered, I mean, the possibility is a paperless download. And I know a lot of places now, when they have employee handbooks and they have working agreements, that's what it is nowadays. It's a paperless handbook. And so it's there, and if you want to print it up at your expense, you can print it up, but it's there for you as a file, and you can always save it as a file. That's another option.
I think that's a good option, Mr. Chairman. That gives you the ability to edit it without having to throw out $500 worth of copies if you change one or a few lines.
right. I think that's a very good idea.
The signature page could be printed.
Could print this signature page.
Then that's all it is. Then you're printing a page, and you have that page available, and the expectation is that they sign that page, that they have looked at it on their file. But we all then can have a copy on our computers, and it's there for us to have also to look at and to be, familiar with. And I think you're right. Anytime there's any new changes that are made, you're not printing a number of pages to add and take out a staple and try to fit it in. It's there, and the corrections can be made right there. And they can be highlighted. So I think the paperless might be a good way to do that and save money.
Yeah, classic example is Mr. Reuter asked for some information about wages, and it was sent to him on a disk or on the computer, and then all the information is there and available to him.
We may have some people that don't have access to the computer.
Well, for
here,
those
and we could
few people that we could certainly print them one. I know, me being a senior, I like paper copies, but it's in today's world, everything's done on a computer. Okay, want to table this, or we'll just cancel this for now?
I can make a motion.
Make a motion.
I would make a motion that we, instead of having that we have some hard copies available, but that the majority of that this be placed on the computer as a file for people to look at instead of a paper copy.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item number 6, Personnel Director's comments, if you have any. Anything you'd
Mr.
like?
Chairman, I'm just working on one issue a couple issues, but one of them, just to put it on your radar screen, is that we've had the circumstance where a full-time employee has been now elected to a full-time position. And we're trying to figure out a way within the law to allow her to provide an orientation and keep her office up and running. It's actually a conflict to have somebody who is an elected official receive pay outside of that elected salary, because it's double dipping according to the law. So in the absence of having an opinion on that, I think we just continue forward until we get it straightened out. But once we get an opinion, and for future reference, just so this board is aware, when that happens, we should really take a hard look as to how we're going to proceed with hiring into that office. She's since resigned, I understand, from water clerk.
I believe she sent you a letter of resignation?
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
And I'm working on another issue that I'm not ready to share with the board yet, because there would be no sense in it until I have an answer.
Okay. I'll just make a comment that Jonathan has asked that there be a wage freeze for now, that anybody that is coming before this board that's looking for a increase in salaries will be put on hold until job descriptions have been reviewed, and job descriptions have been reviewed in conjunction with the wage study.
That makes sense.
Jonathan has asked that he receive a copy of the existing updated job descriptions, which we did last December. And the reason we did that is to make sure we had all current job descriptions going into the wage study.
Right.
So that information is going to be looked at, scrutinized, but in the meantime, anybody that comes before us and wants to be considered for either a change of job description or any kind of salary increase will be put on hold until the study of the wage study and current job descriptions are combined.
So that includes, you're including merit also.
Yes.
Yes.
You want a freeze on
Because
anything.
We only have a certain amount of money, a certain pool of money. As of July 1st, when we award COLA, that money's gone. So
So we
for the
send out a
entire,
memoranda to all the supervisors explaining this, So if someone comes up and wants to do it, we put them on hold. They don't understand why we're putting them on hold. We won't have to explain it. The supervisor is the one that has to submit them.
Correct.
If so, we put them in the RAM explaining until this is done, we're gonna put everything on hold. It'll be easier than guys worrying that they're gonna get paid rate.
Okay, do you want to do that?
I think I've explained it to most of them in person.
Okay,
but
they
I'm-
probably
I'm-
already know it.
Okay.
And all it is a phone call to one of us, and the answer is it's on hold.
Could you say that again, what you just
Surprising, though, if someone were to come again. We did all these,
It might not happen, but just in case. Because somebody, it's very possible somebody's going to hear, and they probably already know, that the administrator and the Board of Selectmen are looking at the wage study. So now people are going to sit back and think, well, maybe this is a time I can get more money.
slip it in?
and you have to realize they got a merit and they got a cost of living.
That's correct. That's correct.
So would you say what you just said again, towards the end? I
I forgot what I was saying.
said something about a pool of money, I think.
So there was a pool of money, I think there's about $9,000, something was somewhere in that vicinity, that effective July 1st, when we assign COLA, will be pretty much gone. So even if we did approve, we'd be in a situation where if we approved everybody August 1st, then we'd have a retroactive situation. We don't have the money to give right
Okay.
now.
All right,
Everybody
understood.
is getting a cost of living adjustment effective July 1st.
Okay.
So nobody should walk away without an increase
All
for
right.
this fiscal year. So, again, prior to awarding any sort of an upgrade, I think we need to consider we should use any money we have available to try to back into that wage study and bring everybody up at once. Everybody still gets their increase, except we're awarding it maybe in a smaller increment to everybody as opposed to one or two people.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that explanation.
The one thing I want to give Mr. Ruda a lot of credit for is he's taking a very serious look at the wage study. And in our previous wage studies, we've had the wage study and we've filed it. And no action's been has been taken on any kind of wage study whatsoever. So I commend Mr. Ruda for taking that in-depth step to look at the wage study. I think this is the first time that the entire Board of Selectmen will be looking at a complete wage study. Might take a little time, but at least we're taking a good hard look at the wage study to see what we can do and what we can't do. And the employees should be comfortable with that. I would hope they would be comfortable with that.
Thank you.
Anything else?
No, I think that's it, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, any board member comments or other business? Okay, do I have a motion? Our next meeting will be July 16th at 9 o'clock. It's always the third Tuesday of the month. Mr. Ruder will attend if there is something on the agenda that he needs either to find out or to ask questions, but he might not be attending every single meeting, just like Greg did. Okay. Do I have a motion to
A
adjourn?
motion that we adjourn to the 16th of July.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you.